To welcome you all and start the meeting and ask the roll be called, please.
Sloop. Here. Bozeman.
Here.
Dishroom. Posthauser.
Here.
Park.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Zawin.
Here.
Thank you. Can we all please stand for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll now move into the public participation portion of the meeting. And I'd like to ask at this time, is there anyone who wishes to address the board? If so, can you please just raise your hand? And you have the name? Okay, you already have your name down. Thank you very much. I'll just read you a few quick statements before you address the board. I'd like to remind you of the process. For Board Policy 2230, we ask that when you're addressing the board, you please identify yourself and be brief. Comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. The speaker is asked to please conduct oneself with respect and civility towards others. Individuals less than 18 years of age are permitted to address the board if accompanied by his or her parent or guardian, and the board typically does not engage in two-way conversations during the public portion of the meeting. Any follow-up response will be addressed by the administration at a later date. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Mary Nelson, and I've been a resident in the Delaware School District for many years. I'm a Delaware graduate, and I am a Delaware teacher. And I am concerned about the exploratory program presented to you, and more importantly, your reactions to it. I, as a District 323 teacher and a District 323 taxpayer, am more than impressed with the options for the students, which were presented to you by our experts, our teachers, and our administrators. We are in dire need of reform of our exploratory program. At one point in my time at teaching at the middle school, our exploratory program was more than awesome. The classes were fun, educational, innovative, 9 weeks in length, and not so academic that they required homework. I was so proud of our program. Then all was changed and they became very academic. Some are even an entire semester long, and some actually require homework, making the kids have yet another academic class. So the way that the program has been presented, it includes SEL, which is state mandated, and I think this is brilliant. Right now, the 6th and 8th grade levels, SEL is taught during our Panther Pride time. That is a 28-minute period which we use for RTI, general announcement, silent reading, and now SEL. Since it is taught by so many teachers, it is not always taught with the integrity it deserves. For me, I abhor teaching it, especially to these kids who I see for 28 minutes a day, who I see reading. I'm not engaging in teaching them anything. This has made it very difficult to teach this curriculum with the integrity it deserves. It would be so great for the kids to have one person who is truly invested in this curriculum and will really put heart and soul into teaching it. I am also impressed with the curriculum cruising, which will be taught with SEL. This is a great opportunity for our students. Another positive of the program presented to you is that 8th graders get some choices that are interesting and up to date for their options for exploratory. I think that by 8th grade they have earned this. They've earned this. Each course offering is important in the lives of our students and will enhance their education. As I listened to you at the most recent board meeting, I thought your comments about the middle school Spanish and French offerings were very interesting. I heard it stated several times that the board is disturbed that kids have to make a choice. Here are my thoughts on kids making choices. I, like most of you, hate to see the students have to make choices in the 8th grade or even before that between academic classes, music, athletics, or whatever. However, that seems to be the way our society is going. Rush, 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 and it seems that that's what our parents are buying into. In light of the fact that choices have to be made, I am fine with offering French or Spanish during study hall. I know that this might affect music, but choices are tough. Due to the availability of the gym, we have sporting practice several mornings a week. I do not see how this can change to accommodate the kids choosing to take a 0 hour. Also, many non-sporting activities occur in the morning as well, thus making this choice more difficult. If a student chooses to take the 0-hour class in middle school, that student will be making a choice between foreign language and sports, or foreign language and other extracurricular activities. So the choice might be music, might be athletics, might be an 8th grade foreign language. I think both options should be offered to our students. As far as getting to school for 0 hour, I do not see that as a concern. So many kids are at our school in the morning earlier than I am. I just don't think transportation is an issue for the very vast majority of our students. Spanish was offered at a 0-hour time slot at the middle school several years ago, and transportation was not a problem. So many parents bring their kids to school. So many older siblings take 0-hour and drive to school, and their little siblings come with them. And so many kids can carpool. Overall, I just want you to know that as a teacher in this district for 26 years, and as a District 323 taxpayer, I am passionate about our exploratory program. And I back what was given to you, the proposal that was given to you, 100% and without reservation. I hope that you would truly consider that experts in this field of education, experts who are currently teaching our exploratory classes, worked for many hours to get to this proposal. It is a great proposal and one that you should all stand behind and be proud of. It is absolutely in the best interest of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board at this time? Can you please come and give your name up front here? Thank you.
My name is Tina Holloway, and I'm the band director at Dunlap Valley. I'm the band director at Dunlap Middle and also at Virginia. I have been teaching for 31 years. And I've been teaching second grade here through 8th grade, actually second grade through 12th. I've been teaching second grade through 12th, and I've also taught at the college level. I want to make my voice and those of my colleagues heard. The issue about Explore is a difficult one. The music staff is not opposed to what is good for our students. Over half of my students are the honor roll, are the 35 and 36s on the ACTs, are the gifted, are the track runners, are the kids that are doing all of those things. And I think we need to be very careful when we expect a 13-year-old, possibly 14, to make decisions about what is best for them. We are trying to give our middle school kids a wide range of things. And I would love to see this happen. However, putting it on a study hall and telling musicians and telling sports people that they must choose the very students that are at the top of our honor rolls, the very students that are at the top of the graduating classes that come out of the school district, this would be severe. I think we need to step back. I think that the idea of exploratory and bringing it back so that it works for students needs to get a break put on it so that coaches, music staff, everyone who is trying to educate kids in this district can have a voice, and we can help each other understand each other and possibly go forward. But I don't see that where we're at right now. This is where we're at, ready to go forward with something that was presented when not all voices have been heard. We have very capable teachers in here, and every teacher, including the person that spoke right before me, we are passionate about what we do. That's why you hired us. But please, don't go forward until everybody can give input to what is best for these students. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to address the board at this time? All right. Okay, seeing no one, I'm going to go ahead and move to Dr. Parker's superintendent report.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our February meeting. As you know, we'll get started with our safety minute, and our technology is working tonight, which is a positive. So we're going to start with seeing if we have any volunteers to call 911, first aid responders, and volunteers who are also certified in CPR. If you could raise your hand for me, please. Thank you very much. Our exits are to my right, my left, and our AED machine is in our main hallway. I will note for the board and for everyone here tonight, our current enrollment is 4,498 students, which is a decrease of 6 students since our last meeting in January. And this is actually something we check our enrollment just about every day, so we keep a close eye on where our enrollment is headed. State of the schools is coming very soon. We have approximately 50 seats left for our event that will be held at Dunlap Valley, and I would encourage anyone who would like to attend to send their name to the district office. We would love to have you there to hear about the progress of everything that's going on in the district. We also have a Meet the Candidates night, which for our Board of Education election, which is on March 16th at 6:30, and that will be held at Dunlap Valley Middle School. This year, the district will register students and also offer online fee payment, something we've been working on for a few years, and we're excited to have that come to fruition. We started about a week ago with our incoming kindergarten students, and we started pre-registering them. And we've already had 123 students pre-register through the online system. So we're very pleased with the number of parents who are already using that online feature. It's going to give us a lot of accurate detail, as well as save some staff time as well. As I get ready to prepare our superintendent's report each month, I always sit back and want to take a look at what the focus of the past month has been, and just look at that district-wide and see where we're putting all of our effort and all of our time. And this report was probably an easier one to write than any other time. The majority of our last several months, and actually even our year, could be actually our last 2 years or so, has been spent preparing for the vote tonight for our district to implement the Future Ready one-to-one implementation plan. And tonight our board's going to be voting on this Future Ready plan. And this initiative has been in the works now for almost 3 years. And tonight I thought I would just share some stats with everyone about what goes on behind the scenes to get ready for that vote tonight under Heather Bowman's leadership. And I'm often asked, just exactly how much time did it take to get to this position tonight? So since the spring of 2015, our one-to-one committee has held 15 meetings, totaling 40+ hours of meeting time. And this doesn't include any training that the pilot teachers received on Canvas, nor any time spent outside of formal meetings, researching best practices, developing documents, planning for teacher professional development. We had countless hours that were devoted to committee members, and their role was to ensure that we were putting the best possible plan in place for our students and our staff. And our current technology staff, under Matt Jensen's leadership, they work tirelessly to stay on top of our technology issues and our teacher and our student needs. And currently, if you're not familiar with what happens when teachers have a technology issue that needs to be resolved, they submit what's called a help desk ticket. And there will be a similar process next year for our students, pending the board approval. Just a little data, since this past July, we've had 3,051 help desk tickets, which is a lot for 2 individuals. And they've done this with only 2 full-time dedicated employees. And on top of those help desk tickets, the one-to-one committee members at each of the buildings also stepped up and helped their colleagues with tech issues. And this fall, they were asked to start tracking their minutes to help us make us aware of what other needs there were across the district. And since September, the one-to-one committee has been assisting, and they've logged a total of over 50 hours just for those issues. And that doesn't include any of their committee trainings. They also met during PLCs, SIP days, institutes, etc. Our district leadership team also became involved with one-to-one this year. And that committee is made up of 55 members from each of our 8 buildings, and that included this year students, parents, teachers, administrators, community members. And we had 3 formal meetings, and then they also took some of their own time to submit a survey and share valuable feedback with our director of curriculum. So obviously the purpose behind this entire initiative and all of our other items on our agenda tonight, whether it's coming to the board as information or action, is to meet our mission. We're empowering all students to reach their individual potential. And that's always our focus in everything we do and all of our decisions that we make. How can we help each of our students be the best they can be to be prepared? So the focus of the one-to-one committee has been that from the start, and we look forward to continue out that mission by preparing our students for their future. I'm very excited about the direction that the district's possibly taking for our students and our staff, and we've been waiting 3 years to get here tonight. So obviously I'm very excited to bring this to our board, and I just want to share that data of what it took. It didn't just happen overnight, it didn't happen in the last 6 months, it was a long, long journey. And I want to thank all of our staff. I see several of our one-to-one committee members here tonight. I want to thank them for all the hours they put into their recommendation tonight. So that concludes the superintendent report.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. All right, this will conclude the public participation portion of the meeting, and the board will now move into information and discussion items. Board, the first item you have for information and discussion is school activity reports, which were available in your board packet for review. Were there any questions? No? Okay, very good. The next item we have is information regarding the high school random drug testing report for the month of January. It's available in your packet. Mr. Kreider is here with us if there are any questions regarding that random drug testing. Okay. Information regarding the 2017-18 drug testing contract is available also in your packet for review. Mr. Kreider, was there anything you wanted to inform us on about the contract? Anything that's changed?
It's exactly the same as the previous one last year. It was all the same tests.
Did anybody have any questions in regards to the contract for 2017, 2018? Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Kreider. Thank you. All right. There's information regarding the out-of-state robotics trip that was available for you in your packet. And again, Mr. Kreider is here to answer any questions regarding that out-of-state trip for the students. Did you want to tell us a little bit about it?
It's their big regional. They've been going through their 6-week build right now, gearing up for this. I guess comparing it to a basketball regional, it is their biggest event of the year. They're very excited for it. Completely planned out. Mr. Shea will be in charge that weekend and get the organization ready for it. But they are ready to go. They've been at it for quite a while.
Very good. Very good. Any questions? Okay, we wish them well. All right, thank you very much. All right, now we're going to actually move into something that we started a little bit earlier. Mr. Holmes and the instructional leadership team is going to present some information and an overview of Dunlap Valley Middle School. And so we'll give them a second to set up here.
Okay, thank you, and We are excited to be back again to go over a few things that we are celebrating tonight from a Dunlap Valley perspective. And behind me, I have some of the similar individuals you met earlier this evening, but some additional faces as well. But if we would, if I could just have them introduce themselves and what they teach in regards to what they're presenting tonight.
Terry Patterson, counselor.
Shayla Grantham, 6th grade English.
Julie Hollenberry, 7th grade math.
Chrissy Hoffman, 7th grade science.
Jamie on 8th grade science.
And Bo, come on up.
Yeah, Bo Rat, 7th grade STEM.
Is that all of our presenters?
I'm not presenting for this one. But you all know.
And we are excited to share things with you in regards to what is going on at Dunlap Valley. Like other schools in the past, we did want to share our demographics in regards to our student makeup. And we wanted to share with you our free and reduced. We're about almost 14.4% is our free and reduced percentage, at 10%, almost 11% IEPs. And then teacher demographics, we have 53 staff members, 71 are female, 28 are male, 37 certified, and then 16 non-certified staff members. But we really wanted to share with you some key things going on at Dunlap Valley. And the first thing we wanted to share was some cohort data from Park. And the one thing I wanted to be able to demonstrate was this right here is math, and that's reading. And this would be this year's 7th graders, where they were at in 5th grade, so 2015. In math, 42% met or exceeded. When they left Dunlap Valley, they were 54. So that's a 12% growth in Park in math. They came in 6th grade at 62. They left 6th grade at 62. So that was a push in regards to student growth with our reading in 6th grade. We did the same thing with this year's 8th graders. Okay, and when they were in 7th grade, let me back up to they were in 6th grade. They were 53% in 6th grade with math. Now, again, when they left 7th grade, they were at 60. So we had a plus 7% student growth on students meet or exceed. You look at math or reading for those 7th graders, in 6th grade they were 59 and 62. The one thing I will say with this data is we've seen greater numbers of growth in our math than our reading. So that's something that we're watching closely and we're looking at. We're proud of the math, but we also are looking at reading on finding ways to better not close that gap, but improve that growth in reading, like where I was just saying in math. 7th graders in 2015, which are freshmen right now, this year's freshmen, when they were in 7th grade, they were 63 in math, left 8th grade at 67. And it's kind of what I was talking about, our growth and seeing math as a greater number. They came in 7th grade at 61, and they left 8th grade at 53. So there's about, an 8% there where we've lost some students that meet and exceed. So we are looking at that. That's something our ILT will look at, continue looking at. Again, we're very proud of our math. We are growing, but that reading component is something as a building is on our radar. We have many things going on at Dunlap Valley, and probably the one thing that many of you guys saw last month was our science fair. We have an unbelievable science department, and we have a tremendous staff that supports our science department. And I will turn it over to Mrs. Hockmuth, who will spend time talking about our science fair.
As many of you know that are up on the board, you've had your kiddos probably participate in the science fair, and many of you have also judged for us, so you know how this kind of works. This year was our 7th year for the science fair, and it's a key component of our curriculum, especially with standards-based grading this year. We've really been able to really hone in on that and really kind of build this whole program, or this unit, if you want to call it, around that, and it's worked really well this past couple of months. This year we changed things up. Every Valley student presented their project to a judge, except for those that were absent. We did have some of them present to outside, or actually inside, judges from our building. So altogether we had 347 projects. We had some groups that had partners or groups of 3, so that kind of brought the number down from what we have overall as a student body. But 347 projects, we filled them all into the gym, and that's the first time this year that we've done that. We've integrated science fair into other content areas. I know in 7th grade and a couple of other grade levels that the English classes have really embraced what we're doing, and the kids are writing their papers, they're doing their reference pages in the English classes. Instead of, honing in on the MLA component, I know in 7th grade, we had Mrs. Lau teaching APA, which is kind of outside of her box, but she had fun bringing it back in and kind of taking that science writing to a whole nother level for us as science teachers. Math classes, I know in 6th grade we had Mr. Allison, I believe, working with graphing and helping them and being able to model and help mentor in that department. Special classes were taught at our school. We actually had our librarian come in, Mrs. Cleveland, thank you. Mrs. Cleveland came in, she's an expert over a lot of things, including Gale, and so she was able to really specialize for us a PowerPoint and kind of directed the kids exactly where they needed to go in order to research successfully for their science fair project. We had also something new that we started this year. We had a school-wide mentoring day, one of the half days. We took several hours to kind of plan, and we paired up 6th grade and 7th graders up with 8th graders and turned it into a very successful mentoring, I believe 30-45 minute time frame where the kids could bounce ideas off of each other and learn from each other, and got great feedback from teachers all over the building. Everybody was really open arms for that, and it worked really well. That's something we'd like to build upon next year and hopefully do just more than once, hopefully have 2 or 3 meeting times. 37 of our 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders are going to be attending the Regional Science Fair at Bradley University this year. It's usually held at Western, but our 6th grade science teacher is now in charge of Regional Science Fair, along with another teacher from Metamora, so they were able to bring regionals here to the Peoria area, and we are sending the most kids that we ever have with 37, so we're extremely proud of that. And hopefully, usually, we're at about maybe 10 to 12 projects that get to move on to state. We're hoping for maybe half, and maybe 15 or 16 that will move on to state, and state will be at NIU this year on May 6th. So very successful year once again. We appreciate all your support that you guys have for it, and we hope just as well next year.
We will move on to grant recipients. This has been a banner year for us in regards to grant recipients. You're going to see over $10,000 in these 4 or 5 individuals. Mrs. LeMasters, who is out sick today, that's why Christy is helping fill in for her. But she won $1,000 on Leaders Change Illinois. And she also, that was along with Mrs. Hockmuth. And then Julie continued with the Bank of Spear for $450. Miss Grantham, who you've seen here before with her grant writing skills, she's back again with $2,000 from the Dollar General, $700 from Target, and then, did I miss one? Spear Grant, $500 for Spear Grant. And then Mr. Pratt, who is back there in the back, he'll speak here in a second as well, PNC, and then the Straw Rockets from Toshiba with the 3D printing. So Mrs. Patterson will close it out with her $1,500 for the Goodman Teen Institute. So the cool thing about these grants that you're going to hear about here in a second is they're outside the box. There's things that are bringing uniqueness to our building, engaging activities to our students that go beyond your typical textbook or library book, which we all value, but it brings things in that are different, that brings experiences to students. So I will let Mrs. Hockman kind of piggyback Julie in her absence on the outdoor classroom.
So Julie and I kind of ventured into writing this grant towards the end of the year last year. She started it, I finished it, and then we both presented to the board that we had to present in front of during the summer. But we found out towards the end that we won the grant and are super proud of it. We are definitely wanting to do a lot of components with it. And you'll notice we call it an outdoor classroom, but it also is going to be a memorial garden so we can celebrate Mrs. Joseph's life as well. So we've decided to kind of work with Hare's Nursery with the relationship, with community members, and also they've drawn, you can kind of see it on the bottom right, that's the layout that we've been presented with. We've tweaked a couple of areas with it, but we definitely want the center, the circle part in the middle to be a memorial area for Mrs. Joseph. We've decided that we would like to work with hopefully the art department in regards, and I know Mrs. Lemasters has more on this, but we're hoping the 8th graders will do the memorial stones since they were the last group that had Mrs. Joseph as a class. So before they leave and move on, we want them to be able to create these stones for the middle of the garden for us. And we have 2 half circles that will be cut out of the grassy area. They will be mulched, and we'll be planting native plants in those mulched areas, as well as having little butterfly watering spots and bird baths and things. We're going to have 5 redwood trees that are native to the Illinois area. They will be dispersed, hopefully, around the area. And then we've had several tree stumps that have been donated by our custodians. They have cut them for us. We're going to have the kids come out. They're going to put a nice polyurethane on them. That way they'll last. But we've also talked about painting them with like glow-in-the-dark paints and things. So if we have any kind of night things going on in regards to comets or viewing of lunar eclipses and things, we can kind of maybe start having some educational opportunities out there as well. We have perennial plants that we'll be putting out that will kind of piggyback off of a big unit that I do on bees. We're not necessarily going to have a bee hotel or anything, but we do want to have a butterfly garden that will bring pollinators in and definitely teach the students how to get their hands dirty. I think that's something that we definitely need to learn to do. We have a lot of kids that are very interested in it, and we actually have kids that want us to start a science club in regards to keeping up with this, and the kids will have a lot of hands-on activities come April and May in being able to create this for us, so we're really excited about that.
In April, 6th grade students at Dunlap Valley have the opportunity to participate in a mystery theater. And as part of that, it is part of our mystery unit. Every year the students do read The Weston Game by Ellen Raskin, which is a mystery. So in this mystery theater, what we will have is we actually have 4 actors, professional actors coming from the Chicago area that will lead the students through the mystery. It has 4 acts to it, and in each act, that's where different clues are revealed. We haven't decided what the crime or mystery is that they're going to solve. Mr. Holmes has agreed that he would like to take place, so not sure if he's going to get kidnapped or what's going to happen. But it is an interactive time for the students to participate in solving an actual mystery.
Okay, this is one of the biggest grants that I actually got at the very end of the year last year was with Toshiba, and they donated about $4,000 to get us 2 3D printers. So you can see there's pictures of them up here. The one on the left is actually printing some student work. That's, if you look on it, that's supposed to be some playground equipment. I think the round things are like tire swings and stuff. On the right one is a block for a big board toy. This left printer, I'm just going to talk about the printer for a second, then I'll go back to the grants. Is it prints larger stuff, about 11 by 11 by 11 is about its max. The one on the right only goes about 4 by 4 by 6. So they use different materials. The left one was a little bit more expensive, obviously, and it has a lot more capabilities with the heated print bed, and it really lets us have flexibility with it. What I'm really trying to do with the STEM program is coming in, there wasn't a lot of materials, is really try to get that equipment built up and find a lot of new activities to get kids excited about stuff. So I was already teaching before we got the printers with AutoCAD, using Autodesk Inventor, so they were already 3D designing, and this just makes that more real. So they then can make models of what they design on the computers. And then I was actually printing off some eagles and stuff for you guys, and I came one short, I didn't know who to leave out. So next week, or next month, you guys have to give you guys all some type of 3D printed design. The other grant I got this year that Mr. Holmes talked about was a PNC grant for some Pittsco straw rockets. And we actually started that unit today. And the kids are really excited about that. We're having that unit and the Spartan theater. That way they have room so they can make the rockets and launch them, and their spaces spread out. We got 3 rocket launchers. They go, if I let them go all out, those will go almost 50 meters. Now the Spartan theater is not that big, so we have to dial it back a little bit so they can get the correct data. But so that's really exciting. That's going to take almost 2 weeks to do that unit. I got $250 from Better Banks last year, and we got some snap circuit kits, and let the kids do some more hands-on stuff with that. And then Microsoft gave us $750 last year as well, and we bought some Makey-Makeys with that, and actually some Connect STEM kits. So we'll just keep building it up, trying to get more hands-on stuff, get the kids more excited about STEM things, and working with the computers, being on the computers about half time, and doing stuff hands-on half-time. And I'm hoping to just keep building it up. My next big grant that I want to try to get is some robotics equipment. That's the one area we're still lacking in, and just keep trying to build it up, get more hands-on stuff, and get the kids excited about STEM.
I have a question. You are also at DMS?
Yeah, I teach one semester at both schools.
So this money, the grant money that you get goes to DMS?
It goes to, I think, all of them back
You split
and
it
forth.
with, and you just move everything?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Lots going on in social emotional opportunities for our students. I sponsor Red Ribbon Week in October every year. This year in November, we had Carl Cannon present his choices presentation. I've been very lucky in my years of being a school counselor to have forged lots of good relationships with people in our community, Carl being one of them. I have him come out and talk to individual students once in a while who may be struggling more than I would like them to. So I have him come and he meets with them individually and then mentors them outside of our school community. Several years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, I guess, I had 6 students over the summer in July go to a Sabrina Goodman Teen Institute held in Charleston over 4 days. They came back and created our small club called TAB, Teens Against Bullying, Drinking, and Drugs. For those of you that have been around for a while, that's the old Operation Snowball, and it is in conjunction with that. So every year I support this group and then students who want to go to the Summer Institute as well. And they always come back all excited and they have a great time. And that's one way that we can support our anti-drug and drinking and bullying efforts in our school. National Mix It Up Day is the day that we have students, they hate it, but we like it because it makes the lunchroom kind of quiet. But we mix them up at lunch. They sit at different tables, but it gives them the opportunity to mix and ask kids different questions, and I do activities during lunch that supports that. This year, Mr. Cannon reached out to me and said, hey, Mrs. Patterson, can you help me? I've got some kids that are in need of some more coats for the winter, so right before Thanksgiving, we collected almost 300 coats and donated them to Mr. Cannon, who uses them at Lincoln and Quest schools and has distributed those to them as well. I've also started something different this year from the counseling office, where I found it very limiting sometimes to get into as many classes as I possibly could. So when a teacher is going to be gone out of the building, this doesn't happen all the time, but if they want to contact me, I've left that as an opportunity for them. If they're between a chapter, or a unit, or an activity, I go in then and take their class for a whole day. So for example, I may take science in 6th grade. I've taken science in 7th grade this year on Science Fair Day for Mrs. Hockman. And that gives me the opportunity to go in and spend a whole day at that grade level doing SEL activity. And that way I touch each and every student at that grade level. So it's been a wonderful opportunity for me to be able to do that. So I'm excited. I just returned today from the ESSA conference in Chicago and came back with some more ideas. So I'm excited about that. Thank you.
That's really smart that you do that. You don't get a sub then, do you? For that teacher right here. Yeah.
Student council. All right. Our student council is very unique compared to other student councils in the area. We are actually a council that is a part of the Midwest District of the IAJHSC, which is an Illinois chapter of student councils just in the junior high level. And we pay a membership every year. And I think that is one of the best things that we have done, not just for our student council, but for our students in the whole building. We have built and created and produced so many great leaders just by being a part of this council, that we've got kids that participate in workshops where they actually network and work with other schools that are part of the IHHSC as well to come up with ideas, volunteering ideas. They work together on service projects. We have several kids that go to camp every year. They've gone since they were 6th graders, and several of them come back saying it was the best week of their life. And then every year during the weekend in April, we take, Mr. Montemayor and myself, we take about 20, hopefully this year we want to take 25 kids to convention. And that is a 2-day really leadership workshop where the kids get to, once again, network. They get to go to different centers. They go to different activities where they're learning different, core concepts with becoming great leaders and potential leaders within our building. So up here we just have a couple of pictures. We had a fall leadership workshop that was actually in Porta. I think that's St. Petersburg, just right outside of Springfield. We took about 24 kids there, and we took the kids that ran for executive board or for an officer position. Even those that didn't make it, we still wanted them to have the opportunity to build and let them know that they're still valuable to us. So we took those kids for the fall leadership workshop. We are getting ready to go in 2 weeks to the winter workshop, and we open that up to all of our student council members. So that was about 70 to about 80 of them that were invited. I think we ended up with about 35 or 40 of them, I believe, that we're going to be taking. So they'll be able to have that opportunity, and that will be in Knoxville this winter. And then you can also see on the right, we do some other volunteering type activities just within our council. Here we have several of our students ringing bells. It's kind of a tradition that we started with Dunlap Middle School when we branched away from DMS. We still continue that tradition and ring bells on a Friday night at the mall, and everybody makes a kind of an evening of it. This Friday, we are going to the Rosewood Nursing Home, and we're going to be passing out Valentine cards and playing bingo with them. We do that every year. There's a service project that the kids always hone their efforts in on. We have a Thanksgiving breakfast where this year just within 45 minutes, the kids earned and raised $300. The dance, we raised over $400, and half of that will go towards that service project as well. So extremely proud of our kiddos and what they've been doing with the council. Just a great opportunity. I really strongly encourage you guys to check it out. It's an amazing organization to be a part of.
And we will close our presentation with what we do with SLC, and Mrs. Holmberry will talk about that.
Our SLC time is nothing new. We have been doing it for many years. We just wanted to highlight a few things just so that everybody is aware of exactly how we use this time. This is our 7th period of the day where every student is working on either reading or math. There are no PE classes, no Explore classes, nothing else other than students working on reading and math. Our main focus is accelerated reader and accelerated math. Each student does 2 days of each, and then a lot of grade levels do on Wednesdays where the students have a choice day. I have up there all teachers are working with students. So how this looks specifically in 7th grade is we have Mrs. Hockman, who has a group of about 20-25 students working with them. We have Mr. Geik has a class of 20-25 students, again working on reading or math. We also have Mrs. Patterson in 7th grade, Mr. Holmes covers a class in 7th grade, and Mr. Pratt covers a class in 7th grade. This leaves myself, Ms. Lauk, and Mrs. Winter, who are the English and math teachers, to work with groups of 5 to 7 students, who are more of our Tier 2 students. So the teachers, the counselor, the principal who are working with groups of 20-25, those are our Tier 1 students who are on track with their reading and math. Again, that frees us up, the math and reading teachers, to be able to work more exclusively with students. And then we also, special ed teachers, can work with their students on what their individual goals are. We have found it to be very successful. Sometimes it almost looks like organized chaos because you'll have kids moving all over the place, but they know exactly what it is that they're supposed to be doing. I think with the AM, the accelerated math, I believe we're the only school in the district that uses that, and we have been using it for 5 years probably, and that may contribute to how our growth in math, how we've gained the growth over the years.
That is Dunlap Valley, kind of in a nutshell. We got a lot of things going on. We're doing a lot of things that we're proud of, but we're also reflecting, and that will continue with our ILT as we move into March, as we have the climate survey that Dr. Parker has provided us that we will begin breaking down here shortly. So if there's any questions on the presentation, or there were only a few slides left on standards-based, if there's any questions you have for our staff, we could answer it now. If not,
I did want to ask student council, on the having foreign language in 0-hour or study hall, that proposal, how would you run student council if that were the case, given that a lot of your students are in, would qualify for that pre-AP foreign language?
What time is 0 hour normally?
It's right before, 45 minutes before school.
So like 7:45. That's usually, we have our meetings at 7:30 and they run until 8:24, about 8:20ish. Mr. Montemayor coaches volleyball, so he's usually morning or afternoons. I'm coaching dance and yearbook right now, so keeping student council in the morning is probably what we would have to do. And I have kids that come in every morning and work. That's just their thing, their passion is student council.
Oh, Canvas. This is a little bit off top, but how are the kids feeling? I'm just hearing some frustration with Canvas. Is that just because it's new? Do you hear it? What are you hearing?
I don't use Canvas every day in the classroom. I use it more kind of like a housing department right now, where it's kind of like my Google Classroom. But I'll say it's on Canvas, and I usually have kids know exactly where to go and get it. I know Mr. Montemayor uses it practically on a daily basis, so he's kind of trained our kids to use it quite well, along with Mrs. Winter. In 7th grade, we have not that many.
Yeah, I use every week and I don't have any kids.
I think 8th grade is the ones that are struggling with it the most, honestly, to be fair.
Okay, is it just because it's a change?
I think so. They have really become used to Google Classroom and like that platform a lot.
Yeah,
And so they think it's less intuitive for them, But we talk about how you're going to just have to learn with it. You're going to learn to use it. So I think it's kind of that learning curve. But I do hear, I think, probably the dissent comes from 8th grade.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Were there any other questions from the previous presentation, standards-based grading, or anything about what's been presented here?
I was just going to ask about the standards-based grading. I noticed on the full survey that there were quite a few more parents who said that their children had less homework and studied less than those who said they studied more and they had more homework.
what was the percentage? I can pull it up if you'd like me to.
Yeah.
Can you pull it up?
I had it up. but
Then we can all see it.
Got too many windows open on my thing, you can't find it.
Sorry.
Captain America. That was a good picture.
So my child is spending more or less time completing homework. We've got 8% saying more, 33, almost 34% saying less, and 58% saying about the same for homework. And then for
This
studying,
is the parents.
yeah, studying for tests, it's 13% more, 35% less studying for tests, 52 about the same.
Is this one you're on, Karen?
It's not in that.
I think this is the survey.
The survey
I'm in
results.
the survey right now.
Right.
Which question?
It's question number 8 and 9.
8 and 9.
And I guess my concern is going into 9th grade, where there's going to be more homework, particularly for those students in the honors classes. Are you concerned at all about them doing less homework and studying less and being prepared for high school? I know you were going to meet with the high school and talk about that, but
8th grade teachers, is there any concern on your part on that?
I feel like for me, it comes back to the studying less. You are going to see them studying less because they're not memorizing answers. They're learning the skill in class. They're applying that skill all the time. So they don't study for a test in the traditional way because they're not memorizing answers for that assessment. They already have to know the skill by the time they come to that assessment. And then the homework, I think you would be seeing less of it because again, it is, the only tasks that are given as homework are very much needed to practice that skill. It's not, there's no fluff assignments, there's no, oh, just do these 5 sentences tonight. It's not any extra things. It's truly only what is valuable to make sure that they've practiced and implemented that skill.
I'm curious if you take the 2 figures, because you didn't include neutral.
Didn't include neutral.
Yeah, so Heather, if you have that pulled up, if
Well,
you...
no, about the same as neutral, right, isn't it?
Yeah, about the same.
Right.
So they're not studying less for a test, so I'm just wondering what the percentage is if you say about the same.
The percentage of about the same on the one here for studying for tests is what Mr. Holmes has in there. I'm on the parents one right now, the 52%, so that's accurate, and then the less is also in there at 35%.
Not sure.
Yeah, so, okay.
This one?
Studying for tests is the one I'm on right now.
Yeah.
So that's accurate, and then the more is what's not on there.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Spending more time would be, it was 13.25.
I treated them more as a neutral. I mean, I looked at the same or the less, that's what I was looking for.
Right, but if you combine more and...
You can figure the more by,
But she's yeah, but Dr. Brown,
The two
math,
ends, yeah.
do the math, got it.
I guess my concern is just the change in hours of studying and in hours of homework, and you just worry a little bit if there's less time.
That's probably the biggest response we got from parents in a positive way,
Okay.
is that the ability to develop the whole child, the idea of less stress at home, the idea of having the learning going on at school. I was speaking with a high school teacher about 3 weeks ago, and he was intrigued by this, and he asked me the question, the question you're asking us, the transitioning. I asked him, I said, what's your grade book look like right now? And he goes, I got about 36 homework assignments. I said, are they all graded? He said, yes. I asked him, I said, how much of that is completion grade? He said, probably about half. I said, so are those grades accurate? He said, no, they're not. And then he asked me, he goes, are you concerned about high school? And I said, are you concerned about college? Because these were senior AP kids in college, or on AP classes in science at the high school level, that in 6 months they'd have 2 assessments and 1 paper. There were no 39 homework assignments in college.
Right.
And he sat back and kind of smiled at me. He said, I get that comparison, I get that analogy. And I asked him, I said, those 37 assignments, how much was quality feedback? He goes, well, again, half of them were 10 out of 10 just for completion grades. And he was concerned that his grades didn't reflect true understanding or mastery, and that he was sensitive to a failure as they go into college, because the transition from their senior year in science AP of 37 assignments and 11 assessments were not equal to what they were going to have their freshman year with 2 assessments and 1 paper. So I think there's data points that we can look at. There are, the quantitative that we showed you today with STAR and with PART, but then there's also the qualitative that parents are telling us, that my child responded well to this. They're able to look at it as not punitive, not stressful. Overall, I was very pleased with the data from the survey, and I'd be happy to share the survey with you all at some point if you guys like to see the hard copies. I don't know what that is like, but
I think Heather, you already
Yeah,
shared
we have
it.
they have
Yeah,
it.
they have it.
I mean, all the opening comments and all.
Like they have that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Is there a way to put the responses with the performance of the student? Is there cross data, what do you call it, cross tabs in the survey?
Say that again.
So it's called cross tabs, where you can match a factor about the child, like maybe that child's grade, with the results of the survey. So you could say, students who get A's responded in this way.
I do not.
Okay.
It was an anonymous survey, so I mean, it's
Oh, right, so you wouldn't do
anonymous.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one question I was going to say, and I really enjoyed the presentation. I think there's a lot of good useful information, and it's nice to see that, the numbers are coming in, and you're actually able to see. I know you can't correlate everything to it, but it's nice to kind of see the direction that it's headed. The one question that I did have, and want to just ask if you're going to maybe look at this, I did see where in that open-ended survey, some of the parents were concerned about the homework not being graded for the fact of it being able to help. And some parents were saying that, that helped boost their kid that was struggling really hard, not a great test taker. It's great to do the redos, but is there ever an opportunity to maybe consider giving some kind of point basis for the completion of homework which then again encourages them to complete it?
I would say there's probably two growth areas for us as a building. And similar to the BIS that you guys heard earlier today, we're in the middle of this. There's two things that I think we need to work on most and foremost is one, continuing writing quality assessments. You're hearing a term now called competency-based learning, and it's using the assessment to be the driving force in the learning process. Competency-based learning, it's equivalent to standards-based. It's the same component, same idea, same theory, same purposes, and writing those quality assessments gives students and parents and the fact that the teacher where that student is actually at. We don't give the homework to get the 5 points back. We give the homework or the formative practice to learn that skill, to understand that skill, to master that skill. So when part of that is helping students to understand what that homework means and what the purpose and the objective of that I can statement might be. So writing a quality assessment would be our first thing that we're probably going to be tackling here in the next 2 or 3 months, ensuring that they're asking the appropriate rigor, the appropriate intensity, and are they giving us quality feedback? Well, that quality feedback also takes place in that formative practice. What comes back to the student, what comes back to the parent, what do you see in Power School? Those two enhancements will take care of that concern, that question. Because again, it's there. Homework's still non-negotiable. It's still expected to be turned in. The feedback that we give students is more of a narrative. It's more of a bullet point. It could be circling a key word. That there gives you more feedback and more valuable feedback than 5 out of 5. Now, 5 out of 5 means what? Was it completion? Did they meet the standard? Was it mastery? They do it on time. They turn it in on time. So we removed many of those variables and just kept it with that standard and with that assessment. So to your point, Dawn, I think those two things will drive that area of concern.
And I also would like to address, I think there's a misconception that a summative assessment means it's a test. That's just not true, though. A summative assessment means that it's some kind of task that we're asking them to do that shows that they have learned that skill. So it does not have to be a test that they're taking. I think that's kind of one of those misconceptions where we say, well, my child isn't testable. They don't have to test well. So there's a variety of options that they have throughout the grading period, throughout the year, to show that they know these skills. It's not just tests.
I've had a lab and a 3D cell project that have been summatives, and they're not quiz or tested on. It was done in the classroom individually on their own, and it worked out really well, actually.
I'd be happy to show you too. I've actually done something called a book snap very recently, and that was an assessment that I just took today, and they actually use technology and are able to take pictures of the evidence from what they've read and then show me how they've been able to reason through and infer and all of that. Right there on that picture, it's not a test, they don't have to use a pencil, but it still shows me accurately, here's what they know, and here's how they're able to apply that skill. So I can show you there's other ways that we're doing that too.
Very good.
And I was thinking too, these 2 areas of improvement, that was directly reflected in the survey results.
Absolutely.
I mean, if there was any more weakness, it was kind of that communication piece, and whether the parents really understood, and understood first off, what are the standard-based, what are they assessing? And so just...
That feedback coming back to the parent is huge with that rubric. And part of that is retraining students too, to take this home. I do think Canvas will help with this, because if they're doing a writing prompt, if they're doing a compare and contrast with the video and a informational text, If they're reading a poem and they're trying to find author's point of view, whatever it might be, that now will be warehoused on a student platform. So access to that will be immediately to the parent. So the online versions of Canvas and technology will help in that.
And will there be kind of a synopsis? You know, there are a lot of us who are just super busy and, you know, we check Power School and the grades when we're in the pickup line or we're in the grocery store line. And the ease of being able to look at a homework grade and see an A or a D as opposed to looking at a whole rubric. I mean, will there be a shortcut so that we don't have to read through the whole rubric? And
I think when you look for quality feedback and helping your student, what will an A tell you other than peace of mind or a misleading that something was turned in versus, you know, a rubric that says did not understand point of view, did a great job on inferencing, but point of view is still lacking. Whether you as the parent understand point of view or inferencing, it gives you a talking point at the dinner table. It gives you a key word at the dinner table. It brings you into the conversation on the way to the grocery store or when you're sitting waiting for church to begin. I mean, there's key words in that rubric. As you know, Mrs. Hill showed you earlier, the standards, those key red words, that directs you to speak directly to your child at any given time, which is, in my opinion, more valuable than how's that B today? Because if I ask my daughter, how's that B, it was fine.
And it really has to be a shift in the way that we think about the grades, to stop looking for the letter grade and to start looking for, you know, what the number is actually telling us. I'm just using this as an example. I have an 11-year-old and he just had to do science fair for the first time at his school, and he got extra credit for going in and picking up his project. And he knows what I've been doing, you know, because I'm always, you know, working, it feels like. So he knows how I feel about all of this. And his first comment to me was, I know, Mom, it doesn't show what I know. That was his first comment to me, but he's right. His grade will reflect that he has an A for that, but he went to the science fair and picked up his project. So that's what I think. We want to see that A because it lets us feel, like Jason said, like we have this peace of mind, but it doesn't actually tell you anything when it's that homework that's, oh, they got a 5 out of 5 because they turned it in. You know, I think it really has to be a shift in our mindset.
I understand that. I just don't know that parents have time. I mean, maybe they do have time to look at that you know, that in a detailed manner.
A lot of the feedback we got on those responses that you guys read alluded that they appreciated that.
Yeah.
That helped them understand their child knows and understand.
Except they did say that they're not seeing the rubrics.
That's on the kids.
Hey, Jason, so other schools that have implemented this, how long did that process take where they went new like this to where they really are like, hey, this is, we're there?
It took Metcalf 5 years.
Okay.
Which is a high achieving school, similar to our demographics, socioeconomics. And when she came in October and saw our growth from August to October, she was impressed. At year 5 is when they were able to rock and roll with the rubrics. Parents understand that the big thing isn't the rubric. It isn't the feedback. It isn't Power School. Not all schools have Power School. They have different platforms. Rubrics look different. But what was the same was the change in the mindset. Do you want a letter grade? Or do you want to know what your child knows and understands? That's the gist of it. I mean, do you want the letter grade? And we're giving letter grades. I mean, there's still value there. We're not, you know, dismissing those and all that because it's still a transitional piece. But being able to drive instruction and change instruction. There's a 7th grade language arts teacher at Arlington Heights, and she is gradeless. And when asked the question you just asked us about transition in high school, she goes, my job's not to come ready for high school. My job's to come ready for life. High school is only a small piece of their life. How to advocate, how to communicate, how to study, how to fail and not feel like you were slapped in the face, how to handle success, you know, how to build on that skill. And if you Google Arlington Heights language arts teacher, no grade, she'll come up. She has her own live binder that is about 85 tabs of feedback, templates, quality feedback. She's phenomenal. But she's a 7th grade language arts teacher at Arlington Heights in Chicago, and she is gradeless. It's all rubrics, it's all narrative, it's all feedback. So that's just another example.
Is your goal in that 5-year window or sooner, or where would you want to be?
To be ready in that, the gradeless or just?
No, with that goal where they said the full implementation Metcalf was at, and they were there after 5 years, is that kind of your timeline?
That was with teachers, parents, and students embracing and understanding what the purpose was, what the objective was. Absolutely. I would say before that.
Okay.
I guess my question is more for Heather. So going forward, district-wide, I would assume, I guess, that have started discussion with DMS because you can't leave them out. So do you have pilots already selected for DMS? Because we can't have one school doing this and not the other. So I would hope that by next year that you have to be
I do not have any
moving forward.
pilots selected for DMS, but if you remember my 3-year goals, next year as a whole, across K-12, we'll be discussing grading practices.
So are you
So
saying
that's the first step that needs to take place. What you have to remember is for them to get to this point at Valley, remember, this didn't just happen overnight.
Well, no, right, but I'm saying you need pilots. I mean, that there needs to be some classrooms within DMS that.
But before you have pilots, you have to have teacher buy-in. And that's where this came from originally. And I think seeing this and seeing the data helps with that. But I think there's a whole background piece that would need to be established
Fair
before
enough.
you would even go there.
Fair enough, but you cannot have one school and not the other.
I agree.
So sorry, DMS.
But next year, one of her goals is to look at that K-12, just the grading practices, right?
To look at grading practices in general, yes. There's part of their professional development survey this spring will include grading. I already have.
And this is, again, it's 2 years from this month is when we truly identified grading concerns, in our building. That led us down this path. So we're in year 2 of the research, the investigation, the best practices. So it wasn't a quick implementation. So good question.
And I think, I don't think you meant to say, sorry, DMS, as if it's a negative,
No,
right?
not at all
I think it's something that we're going to definitely take a look at.
I said that because I saw I was reading their faces back there.
Well, I think
I've
every.
had several
yeah.
DMS teachers ask
Yeah.
about it and actually very curious about it and have wanted copies of my quizzes.
It's a change, I just, it has to be in most schools.
Well, and I know several of them are doing flipped classrooms already also, and that lends itself to this idea too. I mean, they're doing great things with flipped classrooms over there also.
Heather, just to clarify again, you would be focusing on grading practices, teacher buy-in to see where they're at.
Correct,
Or
and to
making
gauge
any
where
recommendations.
to gauge their progress. And I think taking a look at the data at the end of this first year from Dunlap Valley will be valuable as well, not just taking a look at the semester, but seeing where that is, because we have to be on the same page, which direction that goes, we have to see.
Because the teachers at Valley are not mandated to do this as well,
Correct.
right? Okay.
Any other questions? Anyone? Okay. Well, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your committee and your team, too. Congratulations on all the grants. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, board, the next item we have is revisions to board policy 650. Dr. Parker, is there anything you wanted to mention about that? I know it's just a couple changes.
I don't believe so, no. Unless there were any questions, we're glad to answer any.
All right, this is the school wellness policy. Anyone have any questions or concerns regarding that? All right. If not, we'll move on. Also, I just wanted to make sure you know that the policy revisions that you also had listed this time, which there are several this time as well, some of them are just changes, but we had about 18 of them total. Those will just be for review, and we'll have that come back to us for the March board meeting. Okay, was there any information, we're going to have information regarding the student fees for 2017-18, and that was available in your packet for information. Was there anything on that we wanted to discuss, anything in particular?
Karen, any thoughts about the following year, looking at some other, again, depending on where the budget ends or the EAVs going forward, are we looking to explore any increase in fees, not next year, but for students?
Not for 17, 18, but for 18, 19, I think, depending on what EAV does and what happens with revenues from that, and we could look at it. I think going into next year, we're increasing the tech fee for the students that have. that are
And how do we
gonna be
compare
licensed.
currently with the student fees now with the other districts?
We're very comparable. The only place that we really aren't comparable is driver's ed.
Is anybody breaking them out per sport at all, or per activity?
Some do. Some break it by sport. Some have a family max. So, and we, but really when you pull it across, it usually comes out to be about the same. Some have $50 per activity with no limit, and then others have just like we do. So we pulled a lot of data.
Okay.
When you said driver's ed, that we are not comparable to other districts?
Most districts are charging the $200 to $250 for.
Yeah.
And we did the waiver to do that.
Okay.
But with the increase for the technology fee and things, we did the waiver so that we could. But I don't know that it was in the best interest of our families and things for next year.
And how long does the waiver last?
It lasts for 5 years.
5 years.
So you're saying comparable to the schools in this area or
Comparable
the
to the
state?
schools, well, the state and in this area, but I look really in this area to see what we compare to, and most of them are charging $200, $250, and have been for years.
All right, thank you. Any other questions regarding the fees? All right, we'll move into the next item we have, which was facility rental agreement and fees for 2017-18. That was available in the packet. Anything regarding that you want to mention, Ms. Beverly?
Now, just real quick on the facility rental agreement, the fees for 17-18 are the same as they are for this year. Thought long and hard about what to do with that, but the groups that use our facilities for events are community groups, so raising it even more is just causing our community groups to have to pay more. So it's not like we're renting them out for big conferences and things like that. It's people within our own community. So I think where we're at right now is very competitive, and we're still cheaper than what they could get somewhere else, but we're not losing any money, and we're still making some. It's not costing us anything.
Thank you. All right, then the last item I have here is this future agenda items. Request, did you get anything?
I don't have. You know, I had one that I was just going to ask you about. I didn't know if I needed to request it as an item or if we were already going to be looking at it, the policy on naming facilities or sports.
I was going to discuss that at our facility meeting.
Okay.
I believe this is the 22nd.
So we don't need,
I mean, you can if you want, but
Okay.
it's already on our.
okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yep.
And you can submit those anytime, right, the sheets?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we'll go ahead and conclude the information discussion item segment of the meeting, and we're going to go ahead and move into the consent agenda. And so we have the consent agenda in front of you. We have several things listed for this evening. Are there any clarifications or discussion items regarding the consent agenda?
No, go ahead.
Anyone else? Okay. All right, very good. I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented for the February 15th, 27 Board of Education meeting.
Second?
Okay, thank you, Karen. Thank you, Cheryl. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Lou,
Aye.
Bozeman,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Posthauser,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Zawin.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Thank you. We'll now move into the action item segment of the meeting, and the first action item we have is the bill list. Mrs. Beverly, did you have anything to mention about the bill list, treasurer's report, anything you want to discuss or review?
The only thing I want to clarify is there's a little bit of sticker shock probably on the amount of the bills this month because it's about $4.7 million higher than normal, and that is because the bond payments are due. So it's the second annual payment for the bond. So I just wanted everybody to know what that was, and anybody that heard it realized what it was for.
Very good clarification. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve payment of the bills.
I move to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $7,544,389.34 as presented.
Second.
All right, thank you, Brian, thank you, Teresa. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Bozeman.
Aye.
Disharum.
Aye.
Posthauser.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Zawin.
Aye.
Flu.
Aye.
All right, thank you, motion carried. Okay, this will now conclude the action item segment of the meeting, and the board will begin to move into, is this correct?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are we going
No,
into, or we don't need to right now? Okay, all right, so we will have to do that. We're going to move on to B. Now, the next item we have as an action item is the Future Ready One-to-One Technology Implementation Plan that was included in your board packet, and we've talked to many times. Is there
Well, just Mr. Wynn's here. I just wanted to ask him what he thinks of the potential CAT.
Okay.
And how the impact on the local economy, I think, is what Brian's asking. If you don't mind.
No, that's fine.
Can you repeat the question?
Nice to see you.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so the question is, with
that's-
Caterpillar, you know, the headquarters moving, any insight that you would have on looking at potentially the market here for the area, the EAVs, the real estate taxes, what you think it may do to the economy?
Sure.
Here.
I think just to maintain credibility, I have to respond, I have no idea. But, and I'm not, because, I mean, it really is. But, my hometown, Carlinville, Illinois, Prairie Farms Dairy did a similar maneuver. And so, in that regard, the upper management ended up moving to St. Louis, Edwardsville area and left the manufacturing there. So, and that was a recent move, this year as well. So I wonder if consultants are consulting that way. So in that sense, I'm not sure. Obviously, there's going to be some negative impact, simply because if you just kind of do back of the envelope of the salaries that are leaving, and then you multiply that with the layoffs as well, you're into tens of millions of dollars of money that isn't slushing around being spent in the local economy. How the Peoria region readapts to that, I'm not sure. And I think one reason it's challenging to answer that question is simply because of the Illinois, that's struggling at the Illinois, and I don't want to make any big statements tonight, but I mean, right now in the investment community, there's a high probability that the state of Illinois, one of the rating agencies moves the state of Illinois to junk status this year. That's just, I'm not saying that will happen, I'm saying there's a probability of it. And so with that being said, I think until you can get some type of resolution there, I think obviously all economies within, the state of Illinois will be handicapped, if you will, versus, our neighbors who are, working diligently to court companies away, or, Wisconsin, Indiana, Iowa, and so forth. I hope that helps to some degree. Yeah. Okay. Any follow-up on that?
Yeah, but
No, do anybody else have any questions for Mr. Wynn? Anything else you want to share with us regarding investment reports?
I think that's it. I mean, as far as rate increases, I still think if, one in June, one in December, and I don't think that has changed at all. I think the Fed's going to want to take it slow, so you can kind of see how that might impact rates and obviously just overall costs as well as benefits, based on any bonds that might be issued, things along that line.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Mr. Wynn. Okay, now we're ready for the Future Ready One-to-One Technology Implementation Plan that was included in your packet. Was there anything, Heather, you wanted to, I know you've been presenting Feels Like for a long time, but...
Yeah, I feel like we've been talking about it for quite some time, so just excited to hopefully see this move forward. So, any questions?
Can you just give a quick overview again?
Sure, so it would be a 3-year rollout plan, and what you're approving tonight is just year 1 of the rollout. So, in the action item, it talks about the total costs, which include 2 tech support staff members, 2 curriculum support staff members, and devices for all students in grades 4 through 8. And that would be at a cost to the Ed Fund of $458,401.75. So that's taking away the money coming out of the lease levy and the technology fees. So it's really the biggest cost year of the 3-year rollout and implementation.
And each year, is this voted on each year as far as the rollout, or is this commit us all the way through?
We will always
Each year, right?
bring the new dollar amounts. I mean, technology
Each
is
year,
constantly
depending on
changing.
budget stuff, yeah.
So prices are going to continue to change, so we will bring them each year, yes.
Okay.
Okay, were there any other questions regarding the one-to-one?
Did you consider at all, given the change in our local economy, moving it to the high school or having sort of a phase-in case, it's not sustainable?
We did not look at moving it to the high school. I mean, that was just in the last month, and that would have been a huge adjustment to make to a plan that had so much time and effort put into it.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? No? All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve the Future Ready one-to-one technology implementation plan.
You know what, I just wanted to explain my vote before I make it, or can I do it after?
We'll have discussion after the motion.
Okay.
You can have a discussion there.
Okay. I move to approve the Future Ready one-to-one technology implementation plan as presented.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Beth, and thank you, Paul. Now we'll have discussion.
Okay, I just wanted to say I appreciate all the work of the entire committee. I'm not going to vote for it. I would have rather seen a little bit of a delay, at least, in implementing this. I talked to a lot of people this week about our economy. I talked to realtors and developers and business people and local government officials, elected officials, and there's a lot of concern that our EAV could go down dramatically. And I'm concerned about not being able to sustain this program, or if we do sustain it, what cuts would be made? Would those be to, teachers in the future if we get to that point? So I'm also, and I expressed this before, I would have rather seen it just at the middle school and the high school. I have a kind of a philosophical concern about the elementary students in particular having more screen time and not having limits on them taking it home or limits on how much time. So I would rather see them developing those oral and written communication skills. And I know some of the teachers, showed examples of fabulous ways to do this. I worry about just overall kids spending more time on screens and not having the ability to resolve differences with their friends, to communicate orally. So I appreciate all the work, and I know there's a lot of great things for it, but from a cost standpoint and that elementary factor, I'm going to be voting no.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Disharum,
No.
Posthauser,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Zawin,
Aye.
Lou,
Aye.
Bozeman.
Aye. Okay, motion carried, thank you. All right, the next item we have on our agenda list here is the Middle School Explorer Program, and that was included in the board packet for review. I know there's been a lot of discussion, and Mrs. Bowman, I don't know if you want to give us some just brief information, just to kind of remind everybody where we are. I know we've been kind of having some movement there, so if you want to just bring us all up
Sure.
to
So
speed.
what the proposal is tonight for the board is to approve the Explorer program as it was presented both back last January and again last Monday. With the 6th grade, everybody moving to quarters from semesters. So 6th grade would have French, art, computers and digital literacy, along with SEL and study skills, that's social emotional learning. 7th grade would have art, family and consumer sciences, STEM, and global studies. And then 8th grade would have everybody would take the social emotional learning and career cruising, and then have the choice between art, facts, current events, STEM, Spanish culture and conversation, and French culture and conversation. The portion that had been pulled from the original proposal was the foreign language component in the 0 hour and study hall. So that is not up for any action tonight.
So kids can take Spanish in lieu of
So what this would take us back to would be holding our foreign language program as it currently sat this year, with 2 sections of Spanish 1 pre-AP at Dunlap Middle and 1 section of Spanish 1 pre-AP at Dunlap Valley, with, again, the understanding that we would form a committee this spring that would take a look, as I discussed with the board, at the middle school schedule in general, because there have been so many scheduling issues. I'm not saying that we'll be able to have a better resolution, but I think it's worth taking a look at and seeing what other options we might be able to put out there that would meet the needs of our students and allow us to be more flexible in our scheduling at the middle school level.
So that means kids can take Spanish in lieu of Explore?
It would be for those 3 sections, yes.
Okay, so there won't be 0 hour?
There would not be 0 hour, nor study hall, no.
So when we had conversation, I think there was some comment you made about 40 kids or 40 students, and then if that doesn't play out, there wouldn't be any added cost. Is that still accurate?
Well, there's 40 new students coming onto enrollment at Dunlap Middle in the 6th grade level, so from this year's enrollment to next year.
Right.
So it rolls those sections up, so that's where we need the,
But if that doesn't come to fruition, then you wouldn't have to add staff, is what I thought I heard.
we wouldn't have to add as much staff, correct?
What is the difference? You said as much staff. So if there's no increase in students hypothetically, how many teachers would you have to add to revamp the Explore program?
As it is currently proposed?
Yes.
We would still probably have to add 1 FTE between the 2 buildings.
And that is because there are more choices, or why is that?
Partially. The other thing is you don't know exactly where it's going to fall, because those 7th grade students this year who will be in 8th next year will be selecting their courses. They have options. So it depends where their choices fall as well, because you have to take a look then at where the need is. But we have that form, actually it was emailed out to the principals today to edit, to take a look at. And so once this would be approved, that would go out to parents hopefully within the next week or 2, and families to take a look at those choices and make those selections.
And when French was in the discussion, I kind of think maybe there was a mention of, can you just do like 1 section of French at each school? And was that no, because we don't have space?
It's not a no because there isn't space, it's because the committee did not want to be pulling those students out of Explore. I do not.
Extra students, that's right.
Correct, because it's additional students. I do not like that our foreign languages are not equitable by not offering the French. I mean, it really does still leave that inequity for another year.
This is really kind of too late for another idea, but what would have happened if you would have had the French, just don't do Spanish culture and conversation, just do the French culture and conversation? I feel...
In the choices?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You could, it's still not equitable as far as a Spanish 1 pre-AP compared to a French 1.
I totally understand that, but we're leaving, we're leaving French completely out of the picture, kinda, and just maybe that would give the French department a little...
Yeah.
But
it's only be only 1 quarter.
I understand
One
that.
for 1 semester, so you can't do French for just a quarter or a semester. In 8th grade, it's a quarter?
It's a quarter. It's all quarters, yes, so it's all 9 weeks.
So what happens if this comes back and there's a class, say, that's below 15, not many kids have selected it, what happens then?
They would go to their next choice.
So is it...
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, because I have to miss you.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
They would have to have their next choice and that class would not be offered?
Correct.
Okay.
So if we're talking about equity as an issue and Explore as a need, but equity in foreign languages so that more kids can move forward in high school, maybe get to the AP level, which is really an issue, why couldn't there be 1 section of French in each school? And I know it would pull some kids out of Explore, but then, my biggest concern with foreign language, the way it's set up now, is that it's a privilege and not a right.
And I know we can't just offer it to everyone because of the staffing cost, and we have to balance financial versus, serving the students' interest. And then again, not all students are interested in foreign language. But to not even offer that, and I know you're going to work on the whole schedule, but if it doesn't add an FTE, because we're going to save 0.875 now anyway, almost a full FTE by not doing the 7 sections during study hall and 0 hour. And if we could add 1 French at each one to get them fed into the full program so that there's more opportunity to get to the AP level, at a good level, is that an option or is that just not on the table? I mean,
It's not what the committee recommended, and it would affect our 8th grade staffing.
You would have to add more foreign language?
No, it would affect the staffing of the Explore teachers.
So you may not have to add, if you have enrollment go down, you may
Not
not have to add
adding,
one.
taking away. Because you're pulling more kids out of that Explore time.
But you
Right,
already
but
asked
you were looking at
for
adding
0.186
2.
FTE for Explore.
2, yeah, I mean, 1.875. Anyway, I don't know, just,
This would be a closed
yeah, we don't
session
want to
discussion.
reduce staff on the Explorer, I just thought we were trying to
Not
get
the
2 more.
Explorer, but if we're going to get into staffing, then I would recommend that we go to closed session.
I mean, if there is something that we can do in regards to foreign language, I'm totally where Cheryl's going.
But you
I
have a
was
committee
talking
coming
about
up to start discussing for
Explore as is.
following year, correct?
Correct. We will have a committee in place for next year, taking a look at middle school scheduling as a whole, with representatives from every group to see how that could be most
Inclusive
beneficial.
from all disciplines.
Yes.
And Heather, your committee worked hard to try to come up with some solutions, right? And it's extremely challenging because you only have so many hours in the day. And so you had to have it somewhere, right? Which is where you came up with study hall and the 0 hour to try to offer the option, right?
Right.
And we realized there were several conflicts and there was concern about the choice being made and that affecting programs, which is why you kind of took it off the table and you were going to go back with the committee and work and
Right.
see if there's any other
And
alternatives.
right, and the finance issue as we left it that Monday. Now that sits a little bit differently today, so I guess if there would be 4 people that wanted us to look at a foreign language option, we can't completely redo the schedule at this point.
Right.
We cannot, but if there were 4 people that wanted to look at that, we could look at that over the next month and see if there was anything we could do without turning this upside down. I'm concerned about pulling more students out of this because offering facts and art and STEM to those 8th grade students, I mean, those are great opportunities for them as well, regardless of their ability. And to be able to take another 60 kids out of that, I just
It
work.
wouldn't be 60, right? Wouldn't it only be?
Well, if you were doing 1 section of
30.
French per building, 30 per building would be your max, so it could be
Right.
60.
Right.
Because you're not going to be able to bus them in the middle of the day.
And was the, go ahead.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Paul.
So what are we expecting next month? Because in the committee meeting, we gave you full kind of nose count. And how that direction is related to this one and then plus?
I think what Heather is recommending, if I hear this right, is that we go forward with the Explore program as presented, and that takes care of the Explore
Correct.
your recommendations. And then if we have 4 board members that would like to entertain another option for Spanish and French, we would be open to taking that back in the next month and bring that back. We don't have anything for tonight because we didn't know how the budget conversation was going to go. So, but now that we know that we have that money, we could certainly look at some options. But just for the record, we will not be bringing back anything for 0 hour or for music. Just want to make sure that that's clear.
And I had a question. When you put together this committee, will representatives from the music department and other extracurriculars, coaches, will they have some input?
Are you talking about the committee for next year?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Because if we're completely looking at revamping the schedule, you have to have all parties involved.
And did I understand correctly that the larger concern with the kids being pulled from Explore into foreign language, that it only left so many students to fill the Explore program at Dunlap Valley, not as much as...
If it would have been the 7 sections that had been in the original, yes. That would have left those numbers very, very low.
So this way, then you're
The
saying.
5 would still leave it low. I would have to
But not
run
halves,
the
because-
numbers. You'd be pulling 60 kids out, and your 8th grade enrollment for next year, I don't know it off the top of my head, 140. So you'd be left with 80 students to participate in Explore.
How many? I'm sorry, I missed.
80.
80.
Approximately.
That's
I
if
mean,
you go
that's
7 sections.
No, that's to 5.
For both schools?
No, that's just for Dunlap Valley.
Okay.
So Cheryl, what we found is originally when they had 7 sections, pulling all those kids out left almost nobody. So you really couldn't even have an Explorer program if we stick with, like a 12 or 15 student.
Under our current schedule, this is going to be difficult to do. Really, the only times are, 0 hour or pulling out of Explore, none of which is what the board wanted us to do, nor what the committee wanted us to do, which is really why the best option is to relook at the entire middle school schedule. I don't like the inequity between French and Spanish, but I don't see how to make that work under our current schedule without one of the other options that were
And was
suggested.
there some other idea for adding French? Was
Not
there
this
a
time.
creative? Oh, okay.
So Heather, you would prefer, as a curriculum expert, that you approve Explore tonight?
Correct.
And then you have the opportunity to go back and just relook at
And meet with
everything?
some foreign language teachers and talk with them if I have 4 board members who really want us to take a look at that, pull some other people in and see if there is anything else we could come up with.
All right. Well, thank you, and thank you to your committee for all the work. And Teresa, do you have anything?
Well, yeah, we got a little side thing on here. My question would be, if you took this back now and looked at it, would you have it in time for that scheduling beginning in August for that? That would be my biggest concern.
I can't redo the entire middle school
Right.
schedule at this point, no.
Right.
Foreign language, I think we could do if we came up with something that was going to work.
And it may not work.
Right.
So you would just be to.
But I'm with Brian, since they're having that committee that they're going to start right away for the next year. That's where I'm at. We need to make sure that we have for the next year. Bring back.
So before she spends that time.
Right.
Yeah.
So are we interested in having that work done, meaning that you're going to go back with the committee, build a committee and then bring it back? And this is not for fall. This would be for you to have time to develop something. Is this what you're thinking holistically, looking at the whole schedule, the time frame? Or are you thinking are we talking just bringing something back in the next month or so?
I'm talking in the next month initially for foreign language, if we wanted to take a look at that. If I have 4 board members who want us to do that, I would be willing to do that.
Okay.
So they're 2 separate things.
Correct. It really is. I don't think we need to, I think it's clear that we need to take a look at the middle school schedule. I don't think that's something that I need to know whether or not we have 4 people for. Clearly, this whole process has been an example of that, and how it's just, with everything that we want to be able to do, it's not feasible. So I think it's worth at least exhausting that option. But if I have 4 board members who want me to take a look at foreign language, I would be happy to do that and work with some foreign language teachers and the principals to see if there is something we can come up with.
In the next month.
Correct.
And time for you with the one-to-one implementation stuff, you can take this on your plate, it's added
I don't think
within
this
30
is
days,
as
no? No big
difficult
deal?
as it appears, because they'd already kind of looked at it, I don't know. No?
So let's see where we are.
There's a lot to be done.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm not going to lie, there is a lot to be
Spending a
done.
lot of money in one-to-one.
But the inequity piece, I would take a month to look at it. If we can't come up with a solution within a month, we would have to maintain what we had for this next year, knowing that full committee would be taking a look at it.
Where is everybody
Okay.
on?
Brian, are you interested in knowing in a month?
Well, as long as she's got time to do it, it's fine with me.
Okay. Teresa?
We really didn't.
What else does she have to do, Brian?
Do you want to rephrase your answer? How long would this
20-hour
take
days.
during that month? What are we looking at here? I don't know. You tell me.
I would get started tomorrow. I would be working with
You gotta get a
teachers
committee
immediately.
together, you gotta meet. Boy, that seems like it's rushing to me, but you tell me.
But let me ask questions I can understand. You already went through the entire process and came up with a proposal last week, right? So I'm assuming in that study, maybe you already done some assessment or study or possibility or options in there, I'm assuming.
Yes, we would have some information to already look at.
So I think Teresa is saying no. I am willing to have it looked at if it's,
If you have time, I'm
Yeah.
good with it, but if,
So what is yours,
Paul?
Teresa?
Yeah.
Is she a yes or no?
Yes.
if she, Heather tells me that she has time with everything else.
I think that the foreign language teachers would be very supportive in looking at options and would be very helpful in this process. I've had some conversations with them, so it wouldn't just be on me.
And I'll just interject a little bit. This is something that I think Heather will probably work on in the next couple of weeks, and if it's very clear that she's going to have to spend an excessive amount of time and that we're not going to have a very strong recommendation for you, then we will probably put the brakes on and just have to come back to you in March and say, we looked at this, but, you know, with the one-to-one, and I know Heather won't say it, but I will, but with the one-to-one and the Explore and everything else going on, if we're not going to come back with a strong recommendation, then I think a couple of weeks from now, we'll have to just say.
Well, plus you'll have a committee on going anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think the foreign language teachers will be a huge help and maybe take a little bit of that load off of you.
Then I'm good.
Okay, so we got Brian, Teresa's a yes, Beth, you'd like to look at it,
Yes.
Paul? I'm fine with looking at it,
I'm
Cheryl? Yes. Okay, so absolutely,
Okay.
if there's something that you can bring back to Dr. Parker's point, we don't want it to consume you, and if you're hitting a brick wall and there just is no ways, then you can just relay that back, and I think everybody's fine with that, just moving forward, okay?
Yes, we can,
And just to be clear, it's to add a French component to the 8th grade.
I don't know that we know what that is going to look like,
Oh,
yes.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
We will take a look and see what our options would be.
Ideally, yes.
Okay.
We'd love to.
Okay.
Yes.
And
To add or
ideally-
not add, but that's the question.
Ideally add without changing the staff.
All right, any other questions on the Middle School Explorer program before we take the vote? All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve the Middle School Explorer program.
I move to approve the middle school Explorer program as presented.
A second.
All right, thank you, Beth, and thank you, Teresa. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Posthauser,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Zawin,
Aye.
Blue,
Aye.
Bozeman,
Aye.
Disharum.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Thank you. And thank you very much, and to your committee for all your work. We appreciate it.
We did really appreciate all the work that you put into it, because when Karen and I sat in that one meeting, and I mean, it was clear that you all had, I mean, laid out your arguments well ahead of time, and we were just, there to hear everything that went on, but thank you for your time.
All right, the next item we have is the substitute speech language pathologist contract for upcoming medical leaves, and included in your board packet for review. Mrs. Bond is with us. If you have any questions regarding that, were there any questions, concerns? All right. Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the substitute speech language pathologist contract for upcoming medical leaves.
I move to approve the substitute speech language pathologist contract for upcoming medical leaves as presented.
Second. All right, thank you, Cheryl, and thank you, Karen. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Park,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Zawin,
Aye.
Blue,
Aye.
Bozeman,
Aye.
Disharum.
Aye.
Posthauser.
Aye.
All right, motion carried, thank you. All right, I'll now ask for a motion to adjourn to closed session.
I move to adjourn to closed session for the following purposes as stated in the Open Meetings Act. Speaking disciplinary cases, the appointment, employment compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, and discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed.
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Teresa, and thank you, Brian. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Reed,
Aye.
Zawin,
Aye.
Blue,
Aye.
Bozeman,
Aye.
Disharum.
Aye.
Posthauser.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Motion carried, thank you, and thank you all for coming.